This is an MJA Inc. Investigations warning. This MJA podcast is rated E for explicit. Some details of a case and language used on this podcast might be upsetting to some of our listeners. Listeners' discretion is advised. And for those who are still with us, kick back and enjoy the show. Welcome to our MJ podcast, the series Deep into the Woods, episode 15, part 7, 8 Missing Persons. They have vanished without a trace. One minute they are there, and the next moment they are gone. And in most cases, they were abducted. The leads concerning these types of cases hasn't produced anything to the missing person's location. An unsolved mystery is just waiting to be solved. Please join us as we profile 8 missing person cases. There will be 4 missing males and 4 missing females profiled. We are coming to you from Morrisonville, New York. Good evening. My name is Mark, and I will be your host for tonight's show. Joining me later will be our co-host, Olivia. On this episode, we are going to profile some cases that don't get the mainstream media coverage in their area. Welcome to North Dakota. Case 1. It was on March 6, 1989 is when 38-year-old Roy Jacob Hagel, a white male, disappeared, leaving no trace behind from Bismarck, North Dakota. Case 2. It was on May 31st, 1976 is when 38-year-old Mildred Louise Roach, a white female, vanished without a trace from Fargo, North Dakota. Welcome to South Dakota. Case 3. It was on April 25, 1973 is when 35-year-old Perry Ray Robinson Jr., a black male, disappeared, leaving no trace behind from Wounded Knee, South Dakota. Case 4. It was on March 6, 1974 is when 25-year-old Ella Bev Latimer, a white female, vanished without a trace from Sioux Falls, South Dakota. Welcome to Nebraska. Case 5. It was on July 15, 1967 is when 24-year-old William Leslie Arnold, a white male, disappeared without a trace from Lincoln, Nebraska. Case 6. It was on December 10, 1987 is when 22-year-old Christy Jo Nichols, a white female, vanished without a trace from Gothenburg, Nebraska. Welcome to Utah. Case 7. It was on July 22, 1981 is when 32-year-old Michael Guy Johnston, a white male, disappeared without a trace from Brigham City, Utah. Case 8. It was on June 20th, 1979 is when 47-year-old Mary Catherine Miller, a white female, vanished without a trace from Provo, Utah. Let's take a pause for the cause, and when we return, Olivia will be on the line. Olivia and I will profile 8 missing person cases on this episode. This should be a great episode for these cases. Be back in a moment. Welcome to our MJ podcast, this series, Deep into the Woods, episode 15, part 7, 8 missing persons. We have Olivia on the line. How are you doing tonight?
Okay, how are you?
I'm just fine. And are you ready to dig into these unsolved mysteries?
Yep.
Welcome to North Dakota. The Doe Network has 14 males and 11 females listed as being missing from the state of North Dakota. Case 1. Welcome to Bismarck, North Dakota. Missing male. It was on March 6, 1989 is when 38-year-old Roy Jacob Hagel, a white male, disappeared, leaving no trace behind from Bismarck, North Dakota. It was on February 26, 1989 is when Roy Hagel was last seen at a bowling tournament in Fargo, North Dakota. After the tournament, the 38-year-old Hagel did not return to his hometown of Bismarck. But in early March, Hagel called a friend, telling the friend that he was in Kingman, Arizona. The 38-year-old Roy Hagel told his friend that he had visited several states in the days that he had been gone, stating that he just had a little money left, so Hagel was heading home to Bismarck, North Dakota. Hagel's friend also reported that Hagel sounded depressed. On March 10, 1989, Hagel's blue Ford Tempo was located off the road in a desolate area near Death Valley Monument. The 38-year-old Hagel's wallet and keys were in the vehicle. It seems that Hagel's tracks were spotted leading to the desert landmark Rugged Foothills. What was thought to be his footprints were tracked for several miles, but the 38-year-old Hagel was never located. There have been no financial security records for Roy Hagel since his disappearance. His fingerprints have not been found to match with any arrests since the time of his disappearance. The case remains unsolved. If you have any info concerning this case, please call the Bismarck Police Department, Sergeant Mark Gaddis, at 701-223-1212.
Case 2. Welcome to Fargo, North Dakota. Missing female. It was on May 31st, 1976, when 38-year-old Mildred Louise Roche, a white female, vanished without a trace from Fargo, North Dakota. Roche was last seen by her parents at their farm in Minnesota over Memorial Day weekend. On May 31st, 1976, Mildred Roche and her husband Ronald left to go back to their home in Fargo, North Dakota. It was on June 16th, 1976, when Mildred Roche's parents received a letter from Ronald. Ronald Roche was telling his wife's parents that they had decided to divorce and that the daughter Mildred had left them. On June 23rd, 1976, Mildred Roche's parents alerted police to their daughter's disappearance. When Ronald was questioned by police, he stated that his wife packed 2 suitcases and an overnight case. Ronald also stated that his wife Mildred took $3,000 to $4,000 with her when she left. Ronald Roche went on to say that Mildred called him from the Boston area in August, that Mildred may be living there with a group of people. The police were unable to confirm Ronald Roche's statements. The 38-year-old Mildred Roche's family and friends have not heard from her since her disappearance. The case remains unsolved. If you have any info concerning this case, please call the Fargo Police Department at 701-235-4493.
Welcome to South Dakota. The Doe Network has 9 males and 11 females listed as being missing from the state of South Dakota. Case 3. Welcome to Wounded Knee, South Dakota, located on Pine Ridge Indian Reservation. Missing male. It was on April 25, 1973, is when 35-year-old Perry Ray Robinson Jr., a black male, disappeared, leaving no trace behind from Wounded Knee, South Dakota. Ray Robinson disappeared around the end of April of 1973 at the American Indian Movement takeover of the Pine Ridge Reservation village of Wounded Knee, South Dakota. The 35-year-old Robinson had deep ties to civil rights movements and participated with many groups, which is what led Robinson to South Dakota. Ray Robinson traveled to South Dakota from Alabama in April of 1973. This was during a 71-day occupation of Wounded Knee by the American Indian Movement members and supporters. That included the exchange of gunfire with federal agents who surrounded the Wounded Knee village. The 35-year-old Robinson's wife filed a missing persons report with the FBI and traveled to the American Indian Movement's headquarters in October of 1974. But Robinson's wife was unable to get information about her husband. Robinson's wife believes that Ray was killed between April 20th and 23rd of 1973. Robinson's wife reports that reliable sources told her that her husband Ray had been shot and killed and buried at Wounded Knee. There were other people who were present inside Wounded Knee during the time they say that Ray was shot in the leg. 2 Native Americans were confirmed to have died, and rumors of other deaths rumbled in the background. It is reported that FBI documents that are now public suggest people were buried at Wounded Knee during the 71-day standoff. This includes a memo from May 17, 1973, which records an Interior Department official observed several fresh graves at Wounded Knee, South Dakota. In 2014, the FBI confirmed that 35-year-old Ray Robinson was killed during the 1973 occupation at Wounded Knee. In 2018, the Department of Justice released a letter stating that it was alleged that militant members of the American Indian Movement committed Robinson's murder. The FBI exhausted all evidence and the avenues that surfaced, no information was provided as to the location of Ray Robinson's body. The FBI did present a case to the U.S. Attorney's Office in the District of South Dakota, who declined to prosecute based on insufficient evidence. On July 10, 2013, the FBI closed the American Indian Movement and the Robinson investigation. If you have any info concerning this case, please call the Minneapolis FBI Field Office at 763-569-8000.
Case 4. Welcome to Sioux Falls, South Dakota. Missing female. It was on March 6, 1974, when 25-year-old Elizabeth Lodermeyer, a white female, vanished without a trace from Sioux Falls, South Dakota. On March 6, 1974, police were called to is it Elizabeth or Elabeth?
Elabeth.
Mark?
Elabeth.
Elabeth Lodermeyer's home after she failed to show up to work. 25-year-old Lodermeyer's car was in the driveway and the house was locked. After police entered the home, they found pizza laying on the kitchen floor with one slice missing. There was spilled flour and a loaf of homemade bread left rising on the counter. In September 1974, 3 of Elabeth Lodermeyer's credit cards were found in the bathroom at a railway station in Manitoba, Canada. In April 1992, a farmer found Elabeth Lodermeyer's purse and wallet in a hole along the Big Sioux River near Highway 42. 25-year-old Elabeth Lodermeyer disappeared 3 weeks before her divorce was set to go to trial. According to a deposition that Lodermeyer gave, she stated that her husband was abusive. Although Lodermeyer's husband was a prime suspect in her disappearance, no charges against him were ever filed. Lodermeyer's husband died in 2013. The case remains unsolved. If you have any info concerning this case, please call the Sioux Falls Police Department at 605-367-7212.
Let's take a pause for the cause, and when we return, Olivia and I will profile 4 more missing person cases. Be back in a moment.
Searching in the dark, trusting every clue I found, but the truth has not been told. There's every corner of these woods is hollow. I can't see in the dark.
Welcome back to our MJ podcast, this series, Deep into the Woods, Episode 15, Part 7, 8 Missing Persons. Welcome to Nebraska. The Doe Network has 31 males and 21 females listed as being missed from the state of Nebraska. Case 5. Welcome to Lincoln, Nebraska. Missing male. It was on July 15, 1967 is when 24-year-old William Leslie Arnold, a white male, disappeared without a trace from Lincoln, Nebraska. In 1958, when Arnold was just 16 years old, he killed his parents after an argument over the family car. The then 16-year-old Arnold shot his mother 6 times. Arnold buried his parents in a single grave in the backyard. The 16-year-old later confessed and led police to the bodies. In 1967, Arnold and another inmate broke out of prison by cutting bars on a window. The other inmate was captured in 1968 and stated that after the breakout, they were driven to Chicago. William Leslie Arnold has never been seen or heard from again. In 2006, a retired minister told the Lincoln Journal-Star that on the night of the July 1967 breakout, he picked up 2 escapees at a bowling alley and drove them to the bus station and bought them tickets to Chicago. The minister had known Arnold since childhood and said when the escaped convict called for help, he didn't think about the fact that providing aid would break the law. The minister was thinking about a friend in need. If you have any info concerning this case, please call the Nebraska State Patrol Investigative Services HDQ Troop Investigator Jeff Ward at 402-471-4545.
Case 6. Welcome to Nebraska. Missing female. It was on December 10th, 1987, when 22-year-old Christy Jo Nichols, a white female, vanished without a trace from Gothenburg, Nebraska. Christy Nichols, my computer's getting wacky. Christy Nichols is a mother of 2 small children. 22-year-old Nichols was last seen alive at her home in Gothenburg, Nebraska on December 10th, 1987. Her husband reported her missing the next day, and 22-year-old Christy Jo Nichols has never been seen since. The Nebraska State Patrol investigated the case, and the family hired a private detective who produced no positive results. At first, police handled the disappearance as a missing persons case, but as time progressed, it evolved into suspicion of murder. The investigation revealed traces of Christy's blood in the couple's house and in the husband's car. Recent DNA tests have proven that the blood found was indeed Christy's. Christy Nichols' suitcase, along with her purse, was found at a rest stop near Maxwell in 1988. The 22-year-old Christy Nichols was in an abusive relationship and had been treated in an emergency room for injuries weeks before she disappeared. The 22-year-old Nichols was planning to leave her husband at the time of her disappearance. Although authorities suspect Christy Jo Nichols is dead, her body has never been found and her case remains unsolved. If you have any info concerning this case, please call the Nebraska State Patrol at 402-479-4049.
Welcome to Utah. The Doe Network has 22 males and 19 females listed as being missing from the state of Utah. Case 7. Welcome to Brigham City, Utah. Missing male. It was on July 22nd, 1981 is when 32-year-old Michael Guy Johnston, a white male, disappeared without a trace from Brigham City, Utah. Johnson was last seen at a motel apartment at an acquaintance on July 22, 1981. Rory Matthew Roberano was convicted of second-degree murder of the 32-year-old Johnston. It was the first time in the state of Utah that a person was convicted of murder without a body. On July 21, 1981, Roberano met his ex-wife Debbie and her brother at their motel apartment, and they had dinner together. After dinner, the ex-wife Debbie and her brother went to a nearby bar, and Roberano went with them. At the bar, the ex-wife and her brother met the victim, Michael Johnston, for the first time. The ex-wife and Johnson talked and played pool together. Roberano was visibly jealous because his ex-wife Debbie was paying attention to Johnston. At about 1:30 a.m., the ex-wife Debbie, with her brother and Johnston, left the bar and went to a house of another person from the bar that night. At about 5:30 a.m., Johnston drove Roberano's ex-wife Debbie back to her apartment. The ex-wife Debbie asked Johnston to escort her inside because she feared that her ex-husband might be there hiding. They discovered that Roberano was hiding in the apartment, and when he saw Johnson enter, a fight broke out. The ex-wife quickly left the apartment, she heard scuffling and then a loud groan. After leaving the apartment, the ex-wife Debbie ran under a bridge to the other side of the street. The ex-wife Debbie saw her ex-husband Rob Barano leave the apartment carrying a large white bundle which he placed in the trunk of Johnston's car. Debbie's ex-husband then got in the car and drove away. The 32-year-old Mike Johnston has never been seen again. Debbie called the police and 2 officers arrived at her apartment at 6:08 a.m. They found fresh blood splattered throughout the apartment. Blood from one of the large spots were determined to be type A, the same as Johnston's. Later that same day, the police discovered Johnston's car parked less than 2 blocks away from Johnston's apartment. The rear bumper was stained with blood which appeared to have been smeared from inside the trunk outward. Inside the trunk, a large puddle of fresh blood had soaked into the trunk mat. The blood was determined to be type A. Rob Morano has served his prison sentence for second-degree murder and finished parole. Johnston's remains still have not been located. If you have any info concerning this case, please call the Brigham City Police Department at 435-734-6650 or 435-723-5227.
Case 8. Welcome to Provo, Utah. Missing female. It was on June 20th, 1979, when 47-year-old Mary Catherine Miller, a white female, vanished without a trace in Provo, Utah. It was reported that Mary Miller was emotionally upset at the time she disappeared. On July 16th, 1979, a man and his wife riding a motorcycle came across Miller's late model Honda Civic on a remote dirt road leading from the trailhead on Mount Tipanogus. They found her purse, keys, and her identification in the car. Officers interviewed 2 sheep herders in the area where the car was found. The herders told police that the woman apparently had gotten the car stuck and asked them for help. They reported seeing her June 23rd, 1979, walking away from the area where her car was stuck. But the car was in a different location when the couple on the motorcycle found it. Police suspected the 2 herders of having something to do with 47-year-old Miller's disappearance. Without a body, the officers had no evidence of a crime. Foul play is suspected in the disappearance of 47-year-old Mary Catherine Miller. No charges were ever filed in the case, and it remains unsolved. If you have any info concerning this case, please call the Bravo Police Department at 801-852-6210.
Olivia, do you have anything you'd like to add to these cases?
Yeah, most of the time when people are getting divorced, and there's a past history of abuse, albeit a male or a female, I'm not going to say it's a guy or a man. Usually it's the spouse that causes the death. But the one question I have for you is this Christy Jo Nichols.
Yeah.
How come there was no mention of her husband? Was he ever questioned? Because that was going to be an abusive relationship also.
Well, let me see.
They found blood in her husband's car.
Okay, here it says, well, yeah, all the circumstantial evidence points to him because of the divorce.
Right.
I imagine, okay, reporter missing the next day. I imagine he had to been questioned. So,
okay.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I don't say this information I have, but I would imagine he was questioned.
That would be like the first person to question usually, right? The spouse.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And that's even if they have
that's
even if they
even
do
if they
have
have
an
an alibi.
they still
Yeah, they
question
always
him. They
question.
try to get information that might help. So,
Right.
yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I had a
Okay.
friend of mine. I had a friend of mine that worked at Chrysler. He was a foreman, and while he was at work, his wife got stabbed outside of a nightclub, put in the back of a car, which the guy took the seat out. And anyway, he killed her as soon as she left the restaurant. He kept her for 3 days and stopped out in the country and done whatever he wanted to.
Mm-hmm.
Well, anyway, he was from out of state, and he just transferred to Chrysler, and I was one of the only friends he had. So when they questioned him, he asked if I would go with him, and I did. And I went to the trial every day after they caught the guy and everything. Yeah, it was. Yeah, like I said, it's well, like I said, I was introduced to murder at a young age when I was 15. Well, it happened when I was 14, but when I testified at grand jury, I was 15. So,
Wow.
yeah, and like I said, I've never understood the concept of murder, especially when there's no
No.
motive, no motive
And what's with
whatsoever.
the Indians in that first case or third case?
Well, back
I thought
then,
they were peaceful people.
yeah, but back then, see, the government, see, they had a habit of trying to take things away from them, just like up here. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
back in the 70s up here, they shot down an FBI helicopter because the government was trying to tax their land and take land and everything else. You can't do that
Mm-hmm.
when you have a treaty. So these people are going to stand up to you. Yeah.
Oh,
And see, that's the
I
same
thought they
way.
were peaceful people.
Well, yes, but you can't infringe on the treaty that was signed, hundreds of years ago.
Yeah,
You just
that's
can't do
true.
that. Yeah, you can't do that.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
the Indians has always had a large radical movement, but it's not because um, they want to be radicals, because they defend their territory. That's just the way it is. And
Mm-hmm.
like I say, most of them has their own police departments.
Really?
Oh yes, yeah.
I didn't know that.
You got Indian reservations that they have their own police department. Yeah. Yeah.
Are they Indians on horses?
No, no. Well, I imagine they do have some patrols on horses at needed areas. Yeah, I
Right.
imagine. But yeah, it's a pretty wild system. Uh,
Yeah.
yeah, just like up at one of the big casinos here, about an hour away from us, at their
Right.
reservation, but they have their own police department.
I was in a casino when I went with my ex to an Indian casino. I think it was Arizona we were in.
Yeah,
There's a lot of them out there.
yeah,
Interesting.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, okay. You got anything else you want to say?
No, that's it.
Okay, here. I want to thank Olivia for being on the show tonight. A special thanks to our viewers and listeners for tuning in, for y'all have been so kind. I have a quote for you all. Failure is not the opposite of success. It is part of success. Author unknown. Always remember, folks, that if you ever get bored with nothing to do, well, take a walk deep into the woods. You might be surprised at what you might find. That's the end of our MJ podcast, this series, Deep into the Woods. This has been episode 15, part 7, 8 missing person cases. We say to all of you, good night from Morrisonville, New York.
Creepy kids, you've got a while to go before Get caught in the clouds. Want to leave here and on around. Float from the ground, out of the body believing all we found. Floating ghost light through the atmosphere, like spirit vines, crawling deep through the underskin. Things will change, like they always wanna be alive, and people fade. Becoming a ghost in the afterlife. Caught in the clouds, won't you leave here